Return to a galaxy far, far away.
Ready, everybody? Chewie, see what this piece of junk can do.
Here we go again.
You will bring Captain Solo and the Wookiee to me.
Return to heroic adventure.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Return to the ultimate confrontation.
Freeze! Don't move!
Oh dear.
I love you.
I know.
Return for the climactic chapter of the Star Wars saga.
Exciting is hardly the word I would choose.
But most of all, return for the fun of it. Return of the Jedi.
Splash, bub. Da 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 da. Bub bub da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Boo 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 boo. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Hello, welcome to Movie Humpers. My name is Bob Sheen.
Hi, I'm Angela.
And the sounds here may be dogs.
Or cicadas.
Or the Force. Yeah, I wish you could hear the cicadas. When in Nashville, we got like multiple broods and a dense 13-year brood, and they are everywhere. And I love it. People hate them, but I love it.
I love it too.
But if you step out of the doors, it is just like a concert of cicadas around your face. But yeah. Our theme this month is Force, in which we are going chronologically through every Star Wars movie, including some made-for-TV stuff, and establishing the chronology that we demand. We don't care about what is other people's interpretations. It is what we decide, and then when we're done with it all, we're going to say goodbye to Star Wars forever. We're calling the theme Force. When I was starting the original trilogy, I was like, man, are we really going to say goodbye to these movies forever? Mm-hmm. And now that we're at the end of Return of the Jedi and about to go into the sequels, I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, me too.
In fact, I would, of course, we're making ourselves do this. No one is holding a gun to our head.
Yeah, because I'd stop now.
because
I'd be okay with that.
But the reality is that, when we did Noir Month,
yeah,
jam-packed, we were watching a lot of movies we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And really getting into this genre, this era of movies. And it was very inspiring to us. And here, it's just like pulling out your bunch of old shit. And yeah, some of these movies are good, but like most of them are mid, if not worse.
So we've just been so inundated our entire lives.
Yeah, we're already feeling the exhaustion. So in terms of like franchise dumping and loading onto any property for a whole month, I think I'm going to in the future spread these things out a little more. Maybe make it like a throughout the year theme kind of thing. Or maybe like, we'll peck two away on 1 week and then come back a month later. But sitting here and like churning through every Star Wars movie, this might have been something I would have loved to do when I was like 19. But it is a little like, all right, I'm ready to see other kinds of movies now.
I think it's smart that we're breaking up the Lars von Trier stuff the way that you are. like super great. I totally understand what you mean, but even within a month of a theme, anything like this, it's at least going to be a different story. This is ultimately just to continue. It just keeps going.
It's just something that is constantly folding in on itself over and over and over again, and it's all based around this original core that we're knocking out this week.
I mean, the Marvel would be, I guess, or DC.
I mean, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, those are the only, like, equivalents, I feel.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like, it's not that, I mean, it's not all that, right? I think Empire is going to end up being the highest, and it's not even going to come close, I don't think, other than the first one. But, you know, watching all of this chronologically, especially now that we've had all these movies that we have up to this point, I would recommend not sitting down and watching all of this chronologically because it's just kind of weird. Mm-hmm. If you're going to watch it in any way, just pick a trilogy and focus on that. And if you have to feel like you need to watch them all,
go by theatrical.
Go by theatrical release. Don't be afraid to stop. You don't have to do anything.
We have to?
We don't have to. We assigned ourselves this, but we're going to do it because it's the theme.
You assigned it? I'm just kidding. I'm cool with it.
The prequels and the sequels are all just trying to cycle through this feeling, this passion from the originals.
Yeah.
And if you're an apologist for either of those other trilogies other than the originals, like, I think it maybe all depends on your age range.
Exactly.
But also, if you sit here and watch the original trilogy and you see how, like, it has this core simplicity that builds up, it is obviously different. Mm-hmm. And now when we've reached this part, Return of the Jedi kind of does feel more like what Star Wars has become.
Yeah.
In the sense that there's just a lot fucking going on, and there's a lot of stuff that looks cool, but after you sit through it, it's like, that wasn't bad, but what was that? And Return of the Jedi it does seem to be like the movie that is telling you what Star Wars is going to be from here on out.
The transition within this trilogy is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
From how from 1 to 3.
When I was a kid, though, this was my favorite one.
Me too.
Because it had Jabba the Hutt. It had a lot of, like, crazy shit in it.
Yep.
Being dumped in the Rancor pit, then the Sarlacc pit in the desert, and Boba Fett going out like a chump. But we'll go into, like, after we give our score for Return of the Jedi at the end. I definitely think the originals will have a higher average, but I already accumulated the average ratings for the prequels and the made-for-TV trilogy.
Okay.
The prequels average out to around a 6.
Okay.
And I think it just slightly better as it built.
And that's a C, right?
It's like a B minus. Oh, okay. I think. Yeah, it's like a B minus.
Fair.
Made for TV is right down the middle at a 5.
Okay.
We had some fun with it, but those aren't, like, great movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Though Battle for Endor was surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be. That said, we're talking about Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Directed by Richard Marquand, written by Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas, starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Billy D. Williams, Ian McDiarmid, and Frank Oz. I will say that we haven't spoken much on Ian McDiarmid directly, and I don't think it was Ian McDiarmid when we first met the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back.
No, it looked very different.
But Ian McDiarmid is actually kind of fucking great.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he is the most consistently the most fun to watch and revel in and look at. And he is awesome in this movie. He is probably my favorite thing to take in. He's great. And this movie cost $36 million. Made $482 million, and this is the first Star Wars movie that came out in my lifetime. When I was a kid, I couldn't tell you the difference between them. And I actually have distinct memories when I was a little kid being in a hospital and watching Star Wars tapes and stuff like that. So it does kind of strike that memory.
For me, at that time, it was more E.T. Because E.T. was like 82,
E.T. was
like
huge.
end of 82.
And Indiana Jones as well was gigantic.
Indiana Jones. Those were, like, Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Back to the Future were, like, my 3 trilogies when I was a kid.
But here on Return of the Jedi, it's time to go get Han Solo out of the carbonite. So Leia shows up dressed as a bounty hunter, and this is when we meet
Yuba Corado Kamawalpa Pais Kachung Kawawoki.
The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome and will gladly pay you the reward of 25,000.
You know.
50,000, no less.
The whole Hutt scene, which is probably my favorite part of the movie.
Me too.
In terms of just all this cool shit, and Jabba the Hutt, which we have determined because George Lucas presents aliens as though they are ethnicities.
Yeah.
Jabba the Hutt is Italian, specifically Italian American.
This is also the movie that makes it the most obvious that R2-D2 knows every plan that everyone has in detail for the entirety of this universe, and C-3PO is told absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Because you cannot trust him. If you tell him anything, he immediately fucks it up.
He gets scared. You can torture him.
It's interesting the way they set it up, because obviously, like you said, they say Luke's coming, but then he gives them the droids. Now, he's just making sure that they're in place.
Yeah.
But he gives them to Jabba the Hutt. Lando's already, like, around.
Yeah, he's dressed as a guard, disguised as a guard.
Yeah, like, he's kind of gotten himself in. And then when Leia comes in, she brings in Chewie as who she is attempting to barter with Jabba for. But yeah, they have this, like, back and forth.
Well, it seems like it's working, and they actually free Han from the carbonite, and he can't see for like the whole rest of the Tatooine stuff. Luke does finally come along.
But by that point, Leia got caught.
Yeah, everyone's caught, and she's dressed up in her slave girl outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And so Luke comes along, and they capture him and capture everyone. And they're like, we're going to go out on a yacht over the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
And we're going to throw you in the Sarlacc pit, and that's where you're going to get digested over 1,000 years.
I love that Jabba is another character who cannot be controlled by the Force. You know, these subservient characters are so easy. Stormtroopers, Jabba's assistants, guards, all of those people, because they are in subservient roles. But when you get these people who are like the leaders and in charge, it's like, oh, I know what you're doing. He actually says Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah,
is he the first? Is that when it is said?
The first time that phrase was uttered, yes.
Yes, and you know that's not going to work on me. He's so fucking cool and gross.
He is gross.
He's so gross. His tongue when he's like, it's so bad and good.
So this scene is kind of long, but action packed, where they're looming over the Sarlacc pit, and then Luke does the. Like he's doing some high dive tricks or something. And, but yeah, the gang ultimately ends up fighting all these people, including Boba Fett. And Boba Fett, this badass bounty hunter. It's really funny because
I forgot it was this simple.
Boba is on the yacht while Luke is fighting everyone. Princess Leia strangles Jabba the Hutt,
which she shouldn't be able to do.
Well, yeah, but you know, in a movie, you can be strangled to death in like 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But hey, at least she did more than Qui-Gon Jinn did.
1,000%. Like you said, she's an anti-slaver.
Yeah, at least she has the will. Boba Fett's on the thing where they're being made to walk the plank into the Sarlacc pit, and it's all going tits up for the Hutt. Han is still blind, and Chewbacca's talking to him, and he's like, Boba Fett, where? And Han like swings his arm out or something, and he hits Boba Fett's jetpack, and it malfunctions, and Boba Fett ends up going flying into the Sarlacc pit.
He like hits up against their ship first and then falls. It's like
he is accidentally killed
very anticlimactic
by a blinded Han Solo.
It's insane.
Now Boba Fett heads, who especially during this time, if you really wanted some cool Boba Fett stuff, you had to read the books, which explains how he gets out of the Sarlacc pit. He is one of those characters that has overcome the weird presented limitations, and also is like an early example of fanboys filling in the blanks of something that they never actually saw to make something cooler than what they actually saw.
Because they can't have it go down like that.
And you see that all the time, especially in like the superhero movies. And they have the books to back themselves up to have that emotional weight. But you see that all the time in superhero movies where if you're wondering why didn't Doctor Strange do this or Iron Man do this in this movie, a lot of comic nerds with like 60 years of knowledge will fill the blanks on what they can do. But like, then no movie is bad. If you do that with something that has been around for so long, if you can just make this up. No, you know more about Iron Man than the people who made this fucking movie. Yeah. It's nothing. What you saw is what it is.
Well, and ultimately what you're doing when you're doing that is excusing it.
Yeah.
You are making the reason. And we do that sometimes. Like, if this had happened, it would have been a better movie. You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's to an extreme with these people.
Yeah, Thor, he's trying to get refamiliarized with the Odin Force since he lost his hammer. So that's why he didn't do this.
It's not that deep. Oh, and of course we get the Jedi Skywalker fighting the Rancor scene. We kind of breezed over that.
Yeah.
But that was something that I always really liked when Jabba puts him in the pit and everyone's shocked that he kills the Rancor.
And then one thing I never noticed until now as an adult and how much I love animals.
The sad Rancor handler.
Yes! The Rancor handler went up and was like, and starts crying and someone else like comforts him.
Where's the 8-volume book lore around that guy?
I know, this guy just raising this Rancor from a baby.
Aww.
They like sleeping together. See, I could write that story.
Yeah, right. Well, come to find out that I guess this happened right when Wilford Brimley and Sindel left the planet. On the way out from the Ewok movies, when they left the planet and returned Battle for Endor, then in came the Empire, who came around, and they're working on a new Death Star. And when I was a kid, I thought this was the Death Star that was damaged from the explosion. But no, this is a whole new Death Star being completely rebuilt, and it's about 3/4 of the way done here.
I'm not embarrassed to admit this. I thought that until you told me it wasn't.
Yeah.
Until this movie, when I was really thinking about it, and I went, wait a second? And you were like, yeah, it's a new one. And I was like, fuck, I had no idea.
This is a good example of where Star Wars is now, in that like there's got to be the planetary level threat, the planetary size threat. We get that in the sequel trilogy. And in this one, it's just like, we're making a new Death Star. Okay, but how are you designing it? Because it was this big deal. Even without ever seeing Rogue One, which put so much weight into capturing those plans, it's still relevant in the first Star Wars how much Leia says something along the lines of that the details of the new Death Star, that a lot of Bonthans lost their life trying to get these details to the Republic. So you've got like...
And they paid a lot for them.
So you could really have like a Rogue One sequel leading into Return of the Jedi, where they have another group of people have a suicide mission to find out that, they're just building a new Death Star.
But it's weird because the council meeting of this movie is the conversation about when is the Death Star going to be ready. You know, they go on and on and on. And it's so confusing though, because it's like, it's not ready because it's not a full circle yet. It's like it looks like a half moon.
It's all geared to defense. Yeah,
but they haven't finished building it, but it needs to be done. And ostensibly, I guess it is done because they can use it to shoot things, but it's like half built. It's the weirdest. It makes no sense.
They do reveal that they can take a shot with it at like starships.
Yeah.
But their shields seem to hold up. It's like it can be a little offensive, but it doesn't seem to be as strong as blowing up cities or a planet.
And it doesn't have its own defense shield yet. The shield is on Endor. That's how you get onto the ground, is that the shield is on Endor, and it's basically like a net that is holding it. So what's happening is, because it's being held in this one place, it's also rotating around like a moon would around the planet, but it's because it's kind of being drug along in this force field.
So that's why we have to go to Endor, because the new Death Star is rotating around the moon of Endor with its shield being projected from the surface. And Han is 100% into the rebellion now.
He's a fucking general now.
And Lando...
Also a general.
Yeah, he's a general, and he has to use the Millennium Falcon for a fight when they get up into space around the Death Star, where someone has to go in and shoot at the reactor core of the Death Star to destroy the Death Star too. But
always got to shoot at those reactor cores. They
go down onto the planet, and Luke realizes, like, Darth knows that Luke is with the crew, and he kind of just lets them go. Right? He doesn't really stop them. And this is when we get the Emperor in full effect. And Darth is openly being like, my son.
And the plan is to turn him.
Yeah.
And the Emperor is like, all three of us are going to be together.
Yeah.
We know that Darth wants to take the Emperor out
but he wants to do it with the help of his kid.
Yeah, with his kid.
So when they arrive on the planet, Leia and Han and all of them, and there's that speeder bike race with the stormtroopers, and Leia gets knocked out, and that's when she ends up meeting Wicket, the Ewok, and that's when we get the Ewoks.
Cut it out!
Wicket is rightfully tentative about seeing this human, but we know he has experience with
But he's
lady
real
humans.
smart, so he pretends he doesn't know English, and I think it's a defense mechanism.
Like the lady at that gas station where I used to live in Clarksville, when I would ask, if I was asking too many questions about something, she would pretend that she didn't speak English very well, when, like, literally the guy in front of me
had a whole conversation.
Yeah. I wasn't mad, but it was funny how blatant it was.
We also saw before this, Luke went back to Yoda, and Yoda died. He's old. Apparently, Yoda lifespan is 900 years.
Yeah, and so when we first meet him, he is like 889 years old.
I guess so. And now
or
he's
88.
like 900 and he's dying. And it's weird how much before he was like, you're going to destroy everything if you don't finish your training. And then in this movie, he was like, you know everything you need.
By the way, a
You
sister
do.
you have.
No. There is another sky.
It's so funny too because he says but he doesn't get it out, like who it is, who the sister is, who the family is. But it's cool because then, Obi-Wan just shows up and tells him the
I'm
whole
glad
story.
that little shit's dead. Though it's like Henry Kissinger, right? You want to revel in his death.
Yeah.
But like he made it to the very maximum end of his life. So what is there to celebrate? He won as much as you can win. It's the same thing with fucking Yoda, right?
Yep.
He got to run away and be a coward after running the Republic into the ground. Jesus. Get out of here.
And he tells Luke, you're still not a Jedi until you kill Vader.
Sure.
Which is dumb, but okay.
Well, when they're kicking it around and they're meeting with the Ewoks and trying to come up with the plan to take out the shield, Luke's like, I think I might be a bigger threat to everyone around me if I stay on this moon.
Yep.
I need to go up there to the fucking... Is Darth and the Emperor, are they on that super ship, or are they on the Death Star? I think they're on the Death Star.
I think they're on the Death Star.
And so he ends up going up there to confront
Because it starts falling apart kind of around
Vader
them. Yeah.
as they're going about, and there is a big battle. At the same time as there's a big battle on Endor with the chicken walker looking Empire machines and
that I love.
And the Ewoks all like coming in and being straight up murder bears. And we get the Han and Leia interactions where Han tells her,
I love you.
I know.
Hands up! Stand up!
because she's good at killing, and it turns him on and gets him horny.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rigmarole about how getting into the ship and getting the droids to help and all this, but
yeah, and
we won't go into the details.
No, but you do have the bit too where then, Luke tells Leia, "You're my sister."
Yeah.
But doesn't say who their dad is. Fine. So, but then he says he's my father, but then he also says, so anyway, so she's like distraught because she's trying to process all this. And Han, it's like the one chink in his armor is that he's jealous. He's worried that that she can talk to Luke about things she can't talk to him about.
I would be a little jealous too.
I would
because
too.
They seem a little close and there's not like a lot of detail
and he's
here.
Leaving and she's so sad and she's like, I can't talk to you about what's happening.
It definitely looks like they have a connection.
They do.
Yeah, but
but she's not ready.
Right. If it's not like, but Luke asks about what she remembers about her mother.
Oh yeah,
of course, she's just talking about the mother that raised her, Organa, on Alderaan, right? Because
that's what you have to say now.
Neither of them. Well, yeah.
When I was a kid, I thought it was their mother.
In the original trilogy, the implication is that she is talking about their mother.
That she was raised by her for at least a few years. I always just assumed that her mother married Organa when I was a kid.
Yeah. In this one, it's like we know her mother died. She killed herself with a broken heart to not raise her kids. Deadbeat mom. And Leia's just talking about Organa. So big battle on the land, big battle in the stars, and Luke is kind of hanging out with Darth Vader, right? They're just chilling, and Luke he's not trying to just get in this big rigmarole fight, and Darth doesn't want to either. They're just kind of hanging out, debating and talking about the benefits of the dark side and what we can do and how we can rule.
The Emperor's actually there.
And he's there.
Because he was supposed to be there to see like the finishing up of this Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is doing the same thing he did with Anakin early on, trying to make him mad.
And anger is apparently the bane of being a Jedi, and the
anger and fear
and the juice for the dark side. And I got the picture up above your head, and it's actually a great shot where the Emperor is.
Feel your anger. I am defenseless. Take your weapon. Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
Like, strike me down. I can feel your anger.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke takes a swing, and on the Emperor, and Darth blocks it with his lightsaber.
Yeah.
And it's a great shot because you see the crisscrossing of the lightsabers and the Emperor's weirdly horny looking grin.
He's excited.
He is. He's so excited about being near death. Of course, now we know this guy has a really hard time dying.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, he was just excited that Luke was going to give in.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that in the sequels, his hard to die-ness. But yeah, I do love the Emperor so much in these scenes. It's like the best part. And so they kind of do go at it, and the lightsaber battles are a little bit better each time, I feel like.
For sure.
But they're fighting, and Luke manages to lop his fucking hand off, just like old times. And then Darth is like fucked up. And then the Emperor is hitting him with some force lightning and being like, turn. And he's going to kill him because Luke's being stubborn. He's
basically cooking Luke.
Luke has his vulnerabilities, but he's trying to maintain.
Oh, and at some point his hand got ripped. So there's that whole thing about like Luke is wearing black this whole movie. Not many Jedis or rebels wear black, if you notice. He's wearing black this whole movie. It's very obvious that he has this like fake hand. So there's all these things like that he's like his dad. There's just this undercurrent of this is your destiny.
You did point out that Mark Hamill did look like he aged quite a bit. I mean, I guess I guess he literally aged like 6-7 years.
But they all did. He looked like he aged he looked more than everyone else.
Yeah, he did look a little more drawn up in a weird way.
Yeah.
He definitely looked more mature than he ever had before.
And Princess Leia's voice was way deeper. And I'm pretty sure that's from smoking cigarettes and
good
who
old
knows
smoking
what else.
and partying.
Yeah.
So they do the job on Endor with the help of the Ewoks, and they're having the big space battle where they're waiting for the shield to go down while the Emperor is force lightning Luke. So there's multiple things going on at the same time. Not too hard to follow.
No, but it does keep jumping a lot.
It is a lot. And so the Emperor is just force lightning Luke, and then Darth Vader, who picks up the Emperor, is like, no, he decides he wants to then save his son because Luke keeps telling him there's good in him, and he throws the Emperor down like a reactor.
That explodes,
and it looks like the Emperor is dead. And then Darth Vader just flops over, and he's having an asthma attack or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like after expelling that much energy that he is now just dying.
Yeah, and he, in a last moment, this is sort of one of those also religious undertone feel where it's like you can literally murder people your whole life, but if on your deathbed
you convert to Christ,
then you're going to go to heaven and you're fine. That is exactly what happens, because he saves his kid and then he's like, Luke, help me take my mask off. So, he takes his mask off and he's like, I want to look at you one time with my actual eyes or whatever. It's sweet, but also
Guy
it is what it
literally
is.
killed more kids than Albert
like,
Fish.
Yeah. Oh God, Bobby. Let's not get into a debate about who's worse, because it's Albert Fish. And
yeah, I mean,
he was real.
Darth didn't. He didn't linger. He just killed and went on, I guess. But he did kill a lot of kids. At least 8 kids were in that room in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah,
it's probably more than that.
Way more than that.
Like he literally,
I think he probably killed 100 kids.
Every Jedi that didn't run away.
I'll just say once again though that he's a fictional character.
Well, that's up for debate.
So there is kind of a sweet moment, and Luke legitimately is like,
"Leave me? No, you're coming with me. I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you."
You already have. Look, you were right. You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
No, daddy, but he dies.
Yeah, and but Luke takes his body, and it's of course the crew on Endor with the help of the Ewoks have taken down the shield, so now Lando and the Rogue Squadron with Wedge and all those guys are able to get in there and fight. Mm-hmm. And it's all tense, right? And it's fun. I love the ship battle. That's kind of that scratches my little boy itch.
Yeah.
Watching all the star pilots and watching, rogue fighters die horrid deaths in the vacuum of space. Of course, there are explosions in space when there shouldn't be, but we've already been over that. It's, make believe. We can't get all technical on everything.
You know what I realized though? There's so many battles always. Everything just blows up completely.
Yep.
There's no space junk. There should be space junk.
Yeah, there should just be trash.
Just floating around.
Orbiting every planet. Like you can find just droids. Remember,
there's probably droid garbage ships that pick it up.
I forget if it was episode 2 or 3, but that Obi-Wan had the R4 ship droid that got blasted out.
Where's he?
He should be floating around a planet, whatever planet he was by.
He might even still be usable.
You could have a whole story where someone there's a droid just orbiting this planet, and it's the R4 droid that has all the information up to that point.
I love that.
Yeah. I guess that's what these franchises can be. If you can, I understand the idea of the fans wanting to piece things together, but it's just not there. But it is, you have to admit, it's fun to wonder what happens to little characters in this expansive universe, these expansive universes that are established. But so they go in, Lando and Wedge, they go in and they blast up the reactor core and then get the fuck out, and we see the Death Star blow up again, though. It does it have the weight as when we first saw it blow up? No. But
it can't.
It can't, but it does. And then we go down to Endor, where they're burning Darth Vader's body and mask.
Which is what they did with Qui-Gon Jinn.
That's right.
But then he does melt, right? They burn him, but...
Well, his mask, his body doesn't mist away. Yoda's does.
Yoda's did and Obi-Wan did. Okay, but then you see... across the way, once again, because he is now redeemed, Anakin standing next to Obi-Wan, standing next to Yoda.
Yeah. Oh, and the George Lucas recuts,
Uh-huh.
you see, I think he puts Hayden Christensen in where the older...
You don't get to be whatever age you want to be when you die, right?
Well, yeah, I guess you pick... That is interesting. If you do become a ghost, can you pick your age range?
Then if they put in Hayden Christensen, then they should have put in Ewan McGregor.
Like, if someone's going to be like, hey, I'm going to turn you into a vampire, and be like, give me 6 months.
They should have put Samuel L. Jackson.
Give me 6... Yeah.
And that little Yoda lady.
We know why they...
Been, like, arms around.
We know why they didn't. Yeah, the Lady Yoda. They should have had the entire Jedi Council just standing there in a line.
All along like a ridge or something.
Yeah, you don't even recognize them. It's just throwing more out there,
was one of the girls
for
with
toys.
The multiple, yeah.
You're right. They should have had the whole Jedi Council just staring at Luke Skywalker. Of course, we watched what was closer
can't go anywhere without seeing Jedi everywhere. Sorry.
Yeah, they're watching him masturbate.
I see Jedi.
They're just constantly surrounded by every Jedi his dad killed and just nodding approvingly at him. Like, it's like, can't I just eat or take a shit? But it's a party on Endor, and the Ewoks know how to get fucking down. And who would have thought that the end of this epic would just take place in tree houses and a party on Endor? You notice that in the Ewok movies, their village was grounded. It was like a whole different tribe or something. When you went to actual Endor, and they're all in the trees. And when they were doing the Ewok movies, it was like, we can't do all the tree house shit.
It's because the Ewok movies were pre this, and their village got burned down.
Oh, that's right.
They had to rebuild, and they built higher to have more leverage. This is another reason why this is a year later.
You're the continuity expert here, explaining what happened based on what we actually saw, not what we're making up or our extraneous knowledge.
I know that this is probably not even funny, but ever since you said party on Endor, in my head I've got going... Party on the Ewok moon. That's what's happening in my brain right now.
I guess I'll leave that in.
You don't have to. I just had to say it or it wouldn't stop.
Sorry for party Ewokin. Like that song. The sorry for party rockin', and then it's sorry for party Ewoking. Sorry for party Ewoking. All right. You're going to give this 1 through 5. I'm going to give this 1 through 5 combined for best out of 10. There's a lot of fun shit to kind of take in here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as good as its predecessors.
No.
I'm talking specifically the OG trilogy. But there is a lot to look at, a lot to take in. There's a reason my childhood self loved this. But I felt like the story beats of the first two movies were a lot simpler and more to the core. And this one is just kind of all over the place. Then you got the redundant, more Death Star threat, which, I mean, Death Star always looks cool, but it's not as... You're just kind of going back to the well. But there are good emotional beats here and just cool stuff to look at. Some people complain about the Ewoks, but
I love them.
You're always going to get that in a Star Wars movie somewhere. But I'm going to give this, I was hitting around a 3.5, but I think it's a solid 3.75 just due to the practical effects and the creatures and all of that, because we get so much of that. That stuff is so much fun. I can't help it. So a 3.75.
That is exactly what I was going to say.
So a 7.5 for Return of the Jedi.
So the average for this trilogy is 8. I believe. I
think you're right. At a 7.5, pretty much a B+, a respectable B+. Return of the Jedi by Richard Marquand from 1983. It rests between Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So it is equivalent to, we say it's equally as good as Rogue One. And yeah, sure.
Why not?
Okay, sure. And I think you're right. I think that brings our average total for the original trilogy at a solid 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's still enjoyable from top to bottom. And I still think the first 2 are really, really good movies.
Yep.
And but that does it. And now we're in our final stretch, heading into the sequel trilogy. I've seen The Force Awakens a couple of times, but I have not rewatched the next 2. Aren't they all like almost 3 hours long?
I think so. I've only watched them in the theater.
I'd be lying if I said I was looking forward to it, but I want to keep an open mind.
Yeah.
And I do remember that there are cool aspects of it.
Yes.
Especially like the lightsaber fights,
and
especially when you get into it.
Or whatever those little guys are called. Those little penguin people.
Oh, right. Yeah. Those are...
I said pangolin. I don't know if that's what that is. Puffin?
I do remember what you're talking about. People were kind of going wild for those things.
They're cute.
And then you got BB-88, the Rolly droid. Remember him?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to reestablish going into The Force Awakens, in which The Force Awakens is essentially... Everything is a response to... All Star Wars movies from here on, outside of the originals, are a response to how people reacted to how they reacted coming out of the trilogy.
Yeah.
So The Force Awakens is a response to the prequel trilogies.
Yeah, to episode
and how
1 through
people
3.
received them and what they claimed they wanted out of them. And that's kind of the problem with the sequel trilogy, is that it's too much responding at first to expectations and then to itself as it gets deeper into it. But more on that. So check the show notes for links, other places to find us. We'll be talking more about that next week. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, and let us know what you think about any Star Wars movie. Though if it's outside of what we say about it, it's incorrect, because what we're providing is now your new information. So if you think differently, you have to think different now. All right? And that said, you know who's behind all this.
Jar Jar is behind all of this.
Talk to